$100 by using my money pounds, then it is permissible for me to buy $100 now by paying certain amount of pounds now in accordance with the agreed exchange rate between the buyer and the seller. Now the question many a times people ask me, is it possible to use only market exchange rate, or the two parties can come up with a mutually agreed exchange rate? The Sharia principle is that as long as the two parties agree on an exchange rate, this is permissible, and that transaction should be done on spot, i.e. if the exchange rate between pound and dollar is 1 to 2, then I should give £1 now to get $2 now. It is not permissible from Sharia viewpoint that we agree on an exchange rate of 2 to 1, $2 for £1, and I give £1 now and receive $2 after 30 days. This is not permissible. When it comes to dealing in money, Islam becomes very conservative. Why? Because it is very likely for people dealing in money to fall in the prohibited interest, riba. Whenever a currency, a given currency, is exchanged between two parties in unequal quantities, that transaction becomes riba or prohibited interest. What do I mean by that? If I give £5 to Tamkeen, and in exchange Tamkeen gives me £7, and this is on spot basis, I give you from one hand £5, and from the other hand I receive £7 from you, this transaction would be based on interest, prohibited interest, or the word I used, riba. Many a times, we are dealing in currency and we don't know that actually we are dealing in the prohibited interest. In India and Pakistan, for example, many people would go to the market to buy new notes because they want to throw those notes on weddings, or on Eid Day they would like to give new notes to children. So what happens? They go to the market, to bazaar, and this guy is selling new notes. So in order to have 100 rupees in new notes, we end up giving them 105 old notes.
Right.
This is an example of exchanging a currency in unequal quantities.
Yes.
Probably many of the viewers would have said, when I used this word, receiving £7 now and giving £5 now, many would say this doesn't make any sense. But the example I have given, this shows that there are cases where people exchange currency, money, in unequal quantities, even on a spot basis. Right? So this kind of transactions where only one currency is involved, and if that currency is exchanged in unequal quantities, that is not permissible. However, one currency for another one on a spot basis in unequal quantities is permissible as long as there is agreement between the two parties.
Excellent.
Jazakallah khair. I love the answer, it's very good. And I don't want to spend too much time on the currency because I wouldn't be giving justice to the topic. We need to create a show just about money.
Yes.
But I want to touch just on something from what I understand, okay, and you're the expert here. Money is just a medium of exchange, okay? It's based on something like an interest-bearing bonds or something tangible, but it's not the same as a stake of a company or a physical product like a table or a chair. So you cannot trade money or speculate with money. You should be like, okay, I want to buy something, you buy it, you give money for it. But not to speculate, not the same as like what you said about the stocks. You can speculate with stocks to get, like a gain in capital. with money. People speculate, and they do that as a way to make money, to trade and speculate on currencies.
This is true. Okay, most of the Sharia scholars would not like the speculation in currency markets. However, this requirement that the transaction should be done on a spot basis, that minimizes the possibility of speculation.
That's right.
In some cases, okay, people would still be able to speculate, but they would be buying now to sell later on. For example, if I take a view that exchange rate would go up, right, then I can buy a certain amount of foreign currency, expecting that I would be making some money. Okay. This is a regulatory issue. Okay. The regulator should make sure, a Sharia compliant regulator should make sure that people, a vast majority of people do not do this kind of activities. You cannot avoid this because there will be some smart individuals, they would be doing this thing. That would not be considered as haram. However, maslaha, i.e. public interest, requires that this kind of activities should be discouraged.
Yes, on that, you know, back home in our countries, sugar, the people hold sugar or flour, saying that if we take it out of the market, the price will go up. If we bought it at this price, we can inflate the price. That happens all the time. What is that then?
Hoarding or ihtikar, there is a clear prohibition in Islam. Now the question is, what is hoarding? If I am a small player in the market, say my market share is only 0.5%,
yes,
and I take a view on the price of sugar, this is fine for me to store it. However, if I'm a monopolist,
yes,
if I can manipulate the market and I hold back the commodity, then from Sharia viewpoint this is haram, and the regulator, i.e. muhtasib, should take a notice of this and punish this kind of people.
Excellent. And on that note, I think we have a caller. I think, sorry, the call has dropped. So yes, so when you hoard, well, not hoard, store to sell, that's fine, you know, over a small period. But if you're doing it wholesale, then that is not permissible.
Yeah. The principle is that if you can influence the market by doing so, then this should be stopped.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, we're just going to pass on to something else now. I understand there's going to be the very first Islamic stock market in the UK. Can you tell us more about that?
That's right. This is, so far, there is no exclusively halal stock exchange anywhere in the world. Okay, we have Sharia compliant stocks listed on different stock markets in the world, but the idea is that there should be a distinct halal stock exchange where all the stocks and some other assets listed on it should be Sharia compliant. By other assets I mean some Islamic bonds. I don't like the word Islamic bond. There is a term called sukuk, but because people don't know this word, hence forgive me if I use the word Islamic bond. So these Islamic bonds, shares of halal companies, they would be listed on this halal stock exchange. This would be launched later this year, and we believe that this would be a major milestone in the Islamic financial services industry. Why? Many analysts of Islamic finance, they say that a lot of money goes out of the Islamic system when Muslim investors invest in Sharia compliant stocks in New York, London, here and there. So that is considered as a leakage. Okay.
Right.
A halal stock exchange would mean that all the stocks on this stock exchange would be halal, and many of them would actually be owned by the Muslims, the companies.
On that, we have a caller specifically asking a question on this. So, Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. You have some questions on this.
Yeah, I'd like to know, are there any Sharia compliant stockbrokers who I can buy shares in companies who are Sharia compliant?
Thank you.
And my second question is, if I buy shares in a company with the intent to benefit from dividend,